There was a time when I believed small cracks didn't matter. You know, the kind of tiny fractures that form quietly under the surface, unspoken irritations, subtle changes in tone, those lingering silences over dinner. I used to tell myself it was normal. That every marriage settles. That love evolves, matures, calms down. But it doesn't shrink. At least, it's not supposed to. I'm Michael. I'm 38. I sell insurance. And up until 6 months ago, I thought my marriage to Rachel was solid, maybe not electric anymore, but grounded. Dependable. The kind of love that didn't need fireworks to be real. We'd been together 9 years, married for 6. I met her at a 4th of July party hosted by a friend of a friend. She was wearing this ridiculous sun hat and drinking vodka through a Twizzler. And I don't know, man, something about her just clicked. She was warm, sharp, impossible to ignore. That kind of woman who makes you feel like you're the only person in the room, even when you're not. The first few years were good. Genuinely good. We took a road trip through the Southwest, stayed in crappy motels and took blurry selfies at state lines. She made fun of my playlist, I made fun of her snoring. We built memories, routines, a life. It was never perfect, but it was ours. Then life crept in. She lost her job in year 3. Marketing firm layoffs. It hit her hard. She's ambitious, not in a cutthroat way, but she needs to feel like she's going somewhere. And sitting still? Not her style. My job covered the bills, so we were fine financially. But she wasn't. I could see it gnawing at her, slowly. The restless energy. The hours spent scrolling through job sites and LinkedIn. She started volunteering at her mom's small art gallery downtown, partly to help, partly to stay sane. That's when her mom's death came into the picture. Apparently, the gallery wasn't just a passion project. It was a bleeding wound. Rachel's mom, Linda, had taken out a substantial personal loan a few years back to keep the place afloat. High interest. Bad terms. She was drowning, but too proud to say it outright. Rachel came to me one night, eyes wide with optimism, like she had just solved the Rubik's Cube. Babe, if we pay it off, just the principal, she can refinance the rest and finally breathe. It was $42,000. Not chump change. Not money I had lying around. Not something you just pay off. I told her no. Not because I didn't care. Not because I didn't love her mom. But because we weren't in that kind of position. And more importantly, I knew what that kind of money does to relationships. It ties knots you can't untangle. Rachel didn't fight me. Not openly anyway. She just nodded. Said she understood. Quietly. Too quietly. From that point on, something shifted. I'd come home and she'd already eaten. Said she wasn't hungry. I'd kiss her cheek and she'd flinch like my breath was cold. Her laughter, when it came, felt scripted. And the silences? They stretched. They lingered. I started finding receipts for lunches she never mentioned. A nail salon 2 towns over. New shoes I'd never seen her wear. She said they were returns, but the bags stayed in the closet. And then there were the calls. She'd take them in the other room, or outside on the porch, half whispering, her voice tense and too soft. Once I followed. Just close enough to catch her say, "I told you I can't talk now." When she noticed me, she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Not even close. I told myself I was overthinking it. That I was projecting my own guilt. Maybe I should have helped her mom. Maybe I could have at least tried to find a middle ground. But it was a cycle of what-ifs that led nowhere. Until one night, a Friday, she said she had a gallery dinner to attend. I asked if I could come. She said it was just staff and sponsors. Boring stuff, I'd hate it. I said okay. She wore a red dress I hadn't seen before. Low cut. Hair curled. Lipstick darker than usual. She looked stunning. But she didn't look like she was going to a work dinner. When she left, I sat in the living room pretending to watch TV. But my gut was tight. Something inside me was screaming. I opened her laptop. I know. I shouldn't have. But I did. Email. Socials. Nothing stood out. Then I checked the shared calendar. A dinner reservation at La Fonte, a place we'd only been to once, for our anniversary. I clicked the name. The reservation was for two. Rachel Taylor and James Brennan. I didn't know who James Brennan was. But I was about to find out. And what I found broke everything. I drove to La Fonte. I don't even remember grabbing my keys. I just remember the noise in my head, like TV static turned up to full volume. My hands were shaking on the wheel, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to catch her or turn back. But I kept going. The parking lot was full. It was one of those pretentious places with string lights and valet kids in black vests. I didn't want to cause a scene. I wasn't even sure what kind of scene I'd cause. So I parked a block away and walked in slow. I didn't go inside. I looked through the side window. Booth seating. Dim lights. Wine glasses glowing like crystal. And there she was. Rachel. Laughing. Leaning forward, her hand brushing the forearm of a man I'd never seen before. He had salt and pepper hair, a navy blazer, and that smug, lean-back posture guys get when they think they've won something. She looked happy. It wasn't the Rachel I knew. It was someone freer, lighter. Like a version of herself that didn't have to pretend to be angry at me for saying no, because now she had someone who said yes. I left before they saw me. Went home and sat in the dark. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at the walls until sunrise, trying to convince myself it didn't mean what I knew it meant. The next morning, she came home cheerful. Said the dinner went great. That she met some new donors and they were excited about an upcoming exhibit. She kissed me on the cheek and went to take a shower. The smell of cologne on her skin didn't match mine. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I played the part. I smiled. I nodded. I let her talk. I studied her more carefully, the phone tilted away when she texted, the sudden trips to her mom's, the new lingerie hidden beneath her socks. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. Then came the revenge. It was a Saturday night. We'd been invited to a housewarming party by one of our old college friends, a big get-together with music, booze, and way too many people trying to relive their 20s. Rachel wore the same red dress. Halfway through the night, I was talking to a guy about baseball when I heard her laughing too loud. I turned. She was in a circle of friends, wine glass in hand, smiling like someone who just won a bet. Then she said it, loud enough for half the room to hear. I mean, if your husband won't support your family, what choice do you have but to find a man who will? Laughter. Nervous glances. My name suddenly on every pair of lips. She looked at me then. Right at me. Holding eye contact like a challenge. My mouth went dry. My heart pounded so hard I could barely stand. I walked out without saying a word. She didn't follow. When I got home, I found her sitting on the couch like nothing happened. You embarrass me, I said quietly. No, she replied. You embarrass yourself. All you had to do was help my mother. But you couldn't even do that. So I found someone who would. I stood there, frozen. Not because I didn't expect it, I did. I knew what had been happening. But hearing it? Spoken out loud? Confirmed in such a heartless, calculated way? That was something else entirely. I asked her if she was in love with him. She didn't answer. I asked how long it had been going on. She sipped her wine. I asked if this was her way of punishing me. And she said, with zero hesitation, "This is what happens when you choose your pride over my family." I felt something inside me snap. This wasn't about love anymore. This was war. I didn't speak to her for 3 days. Not because I was giving her the silent treatment. I wasn't trying to punish her. I just didn't know what words could exist between us anymore. There's a kind of silence that comes after betrayal. Not the quiet of anger, but the silence of something dead. She carried on like we were roommates. Made her coffee in the morning. Left her dirty plates in the sink. Played her music a little louder than usual. I think she wanted me to react. Maybe even to blow up. But I didn't. Instead, I watched. I watched the woman I married move through the house like she didn't owe me anything. Like she hadn't just weaponized our marriage in front of our friends for sport. Like I hadn't loved her through job loss, family drama, 2 surgeries, and that long, miserable miscarriage we both pretended we'd healed from. Every time I thought about it, my throat tightened. Like I was choking on the version of her I used to believe in. She stayed out later that week. Sometimes past midnight. Once I heard her heels on the front steps around 2:30 in the morning. I thought she might sneak in like a teenager. Instead, she slammed the door shut, tossed her purse on the counter, and hummed a tune as she poured herself a drink. She wanted me to know. She wanted me to see it. So I did. I stopped being the nice guy. I stopped asking where she'd been. I stopped pretending the bed was shared space. I moved into the guest room. I canceled our joint vacation. I paused the renovations she wanted for the kitchen. Everything she used to call ours, I quietly started treating like mine. She noticed. "You're being dramatic," she muttered one morning, standing in the hallway with her towel on, hair dripping onto the hardwood. I shrugged. She scoffed, said nothing, and walked away. There's a point where your heart doesn't break anymore. It just stops checking in. That week, her mother called me. I didn't answer the first time. But on the third try, I picked up. I don't know why. Morbid curiosity, maybe. "Michael," she said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't know she would take it this far." I didn't respond. "She told me you refused to help because you didn't care. That you thought I was irresponsible." I swallowed hard. "I didn't say that." "I know," she whispered. "She needed someone to blame, I guess." That hit differently. Because it wasn't just betrayal. It was reframing. She had built this entire narrative where I was the villain, the unloving husband who wouldn't lift a finger to support her mother, the selfish man who left her no choice but to cheat. She needed that version of me so she could live with her version of herself. That night, I sat in the living room in the dark again. Same place. Same posture. Same overwhelming noise inside. But this time, I wasn't paralyzed. I was planning. I went through our shared finances. The accounts she thought I never checked. I looked at statements, saw the purchases, hotel rooms, jewelry, a new pair of AirPods I never saw. The charges added up. She wasn't hiding anything. Because she didn't think she had to. Because in her mind I had earned this. That's what cut the deepest. It wasn't the cheating itself. It was that she believed she had the moral high ground. That she could stand in a room full of people, mock me to my face, and walk away convinced she was right. I decided something in that moment. I was done grieving. This wasn't my failure anymore. This was hers. Not in the movie sense, no grand gestures, no dramatic confrontations in restaurants, no yelling in the rain. I don't believe in that. I think when someone shows you what you mean to them, you don't scream, you walk. You dismantle quietly. One piece at a time. The unraveling started on a Tuesday. She was in the kitchen making a smoothie. Wearing one of my old t-shirts, the same one she used to sleep in back when things were good. It should have looked nostalgic. It didn't. It looked like a stranger playing dress-up with someone else's past. "I'm going to that art walk downtown," she said. "Might be late." I just nodded, didn't even lift my eyes from the document I was reading. She paused like she wanted a reaction. I didn't give her one. When she left, I made 3 calls. The first was to a locksmith. The second, to a realtor. The third, to a divorce attorney. She thought I was still too heartbroken to act. That I was frozen in confusion, waiting for her to choose me again. But she didn't understand. I wasn't waiting. I was watching. And now? I was moving. I transferred money out of the joint account. Not all of it. I didn't want to give her ammunition, but enough to separate what was mine from what would soon be hers to fight over. I changed all my passwords, pulled documents, took photos of everything I thought she might accidentally lose: insurance policies, mortgage paperwork, the titles to the car and the cabin we inherited from my uncle. It wasn't petty. It was protection. And the day after I filed, the lawyer didn't even blink when I told him why. She cheated as a statement, I said. Not just physically, emotionally, publicly, shamelessly. He nodded like he'd heard it 100 times before. And I'm sure he had. I left the papers with him and went back to work like nothing had changed. But everything had. She came home that night drunk. Not falling over drunk, giddy drunk. Whispering into her phone, smiling at whatever idiot was on the other end. She looked up and froze when she saw me in the living room, suitcase by the door. What's that? I'm leaving. Her smile faltered. You're leaving? I nodded. To where? To somewhere with peace. She laughed, confused. What are you talking about? I filed, Rachel. The words landed like cold water. She blinked. You what? I filed for divorce. Yesterday. You'll be served this week. The room went still. Her mouth hung open for a second, like she was waiting for a punchline that wasn't coming. You're joking. No. You're actually. Yes. She dropped her bag on the floor. You're really doing this? After everything? I tilted my head. After everything, yeah? Exactly. She started pacing. Like her body couldn't hold the panic all at once. You're overreacting. This is dramatic, Michael. You're just hurt. You don't mean it. I'm not hurt anymore, I said. I'm done. She went quiet. And then, in the softest voice I've ever heard her use, she said, I didn't think you had it in you. I smiled. You never really saw me, did you? She didn't answer. I picked up my suitcase, walked past her, and out the front door. She didn't follow. Didn't call. Didn't text. Because in her mind she still thought it was bluff. But the bluff was over. And her world was just starting to fall apart. I thought leaving would bring closure. It didn't. At first, it was just quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like a bruise. I rented a furnished apartment across town, close enough to work, far enough from the life I used to have. My name was still on the mortgage, still on the mailbox, still on the wedding license filed with the state. But in every way that mattered, I was out. She didn't call the first night. Not the second either. By the third, I knew what she was doing. Waiting. Waiting for the guilt to set in. Waiting for the memories to do their trick. Waiting for me to come crawling back like some storybook idiot who couldn't bear the thought of losing her. Instead, I sent her a screenshot. The email confirmation from the county clerk's office. Divorce filing, case number 1178392, Michael Taylor vs. Rachel Taylor. The read receipt popped up within minutes. No reply. A day later, she finally broke the silence. One text. You're really doing this? I didn't respond. She followed it with a longer one. This isn't what I wanted. I was angry. You weren't there for me. You made me feel like I was alone in everything. My mom. The gallery. My life. I needed support. And you shut me down. No apology. No remorse. Just a list of reasons why my pain was deserved. That's the thing about people like her, they don't cheat and regret. They cheat and rationalize. Because the moment they admit it was their fault, they have to face who they really are. And Rachel couldn't do that. Not yet. But reality didn't care. Word spread fast. Quicker than I expected. Turns out when you publicly humiliate your husband at a party, people remember. And when that same husband disappears from your life overnight, people talk. She tried damage control. I heard from mutual friends that she was reframing the narrative. Telling people I walked away without trying. That I Gave up. Some even said she claimed I'd been distant for years, emotionally unavailable, checked out. That the cheating wasn't cheating, it was a lapse in judgment during a rough time. But people weren't buying it. Not all of them. Because I had receipts. Literal ones. Remember those lunch charges, the hotel bookings, the clothing tags from stores she never shopped at with me? I sent a single message to our closest group of mutual friends, not angry, not accusatory. Just the facts. I'm not going to engage in gossip. But since things are being said, I'll say this once. Rachel cheated on me for revenge, not love. She used her mother's debt as leverage, then humiliated me in front of people I once trusted. I didn't walk away because I stopped loving her. I walked away because she stopped respecting me. And I attached a photo, the calendar invite I'd found that night. The dinner reservation. James Brennan. La Fonte. Friday 8 p.m. That was it. No rants. No name-calling. Just the truth. And the fallout? Swift. People stopped replying to her posts. Some unfollowed her. A few reached out to me directly, saying they had no idea. I didn't reply to most of them. I wasn't doing this for validation. I just wanted the lie to die. The best part? James Brennan, her savior, her real man, found out she'd lied to him, too. A friend of his contacted me. Said he was under the impression Rachel and I had been separated long before they met. That she painted me like a cold, bitter ex who refused to let her go. He was furious. Turns out, James isn't an idiot. And his ex-wife? She wasn't deadbeat. She was a family lawyer. Funny how that works. Rachel's fantasy began crumbling faster than she could fix it. One moment, she was the strong woman breaking free from an unsupportive marriage. The next, she was a cheater. A liar. A manipulator. And when the papers officially landed on her doorstep? She cracked. I expected the knock to come at night. It didn't. It was 9:17 in the morning. I was half-dressed, sipping burnt coffee, waiting for an insurance claim call that never came. Then, 3 soft knocks. Not urgent. Not angry. Just uncertain. When I opened the door, she looked smaller. Not physically. Just less of the presence she used to be. Her hair was tied back, no makeup, wearing that oversized hoodie I once gave her on a ski trip. The one she said made her feel safe. Funny how people pull out nostalgia when they're desperate. Hey, she said. I just looked at her. I didn't know where else to go. I stepped aside, not because I wanted her inside, but because I didn't want my neighbors hearing everything she was about to say. She sat on the edge of the couch like it wasn't hers anymore. Like she knew she didn't belong in the room. I'm not here to fight, she started. I needed to say some things. I leaned against the wall. Crossed my arms. I was angry, she said. That night. When I told you about my mom's loan. I felt like you were dismissing me. You asked for 42 grand, Rachel. I know. I know how it sounds now. But in the moment, it felt like you were saying no to my family. Like you didn't care. And cheating on me? That felt like balance? Her face twisted. She wasn't ready for that tone. Not from me. I made a mistake. I laughed. Not loudly. Just a short breath through my nose. No, you made a plan. I corrected. You made a reservation. You bought a dress. You told your friends. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. You executed a strategy. Silence. She didn't argue. I thought if I could hurt you, she said, you'd understand how much it hurt me when you said no. Congratulations, I said. Mission accomplished. Her eyes filled with tears. And I know, some people melt at that. Some men are wired to protect, to comfort, to forget everything when the woman they love cries in front of them. But me? I felt nothing. She wiped her face and said, I didn't expect it to go this far. You leaving? The friends. James. She stopped herself. I raised an eyebrow. What about James? He's gone, she whispered. He found out I wasn't being honest. About us. About him. He said I used him to make a point. You did. She didn't deny it. I never wanted to lose everything. You didn't, I said. You threw it away. That silence between us, it wasn't grief anymore. It was the space that forms when two people realize they don't speak the same language anymore. I want to fix it, she said. I shook my head slowly. No, Rachel. You want to undo it. That's not the same thing. She looked down at her hands. I don't know who I am anymore. I almost felt something then. Not sympathy, recognition. Because I knew that feeling. I lived in that space for 3 weeks after I left. Questioning my worth. Asking what I did wrong. But the difference? I didn't burn the house down to find myself. You're going to be okay, I said finally. But not with me. She nodded, slowly. The finality of it finally landed. She stood up. Looked around one last time, like maybe some version of our life still lived in the corners. Then she walked to the door, paused, and whispered. I'm sorry. I believed her. But it didn't matter. Not anymore. She left. And I let her. You don't notice the silence at first. Not the kind that comes after a breakup, that one's loud. Full of echoes. Empty drawers and deleted playlists and toothbrushes missing from the holder. That silence screams. But then there's the one that follows later. Weeks. Months. After the dust. After the papers are signed, and the house is split, and the names are unlinked. That silence is different. It's not emptiness. It's clarity. It's peace that doesn't feel like punishment. I moved back to the city. Found a small apartment with brick walls and a busted radiator. The kind of place that forces you to start fresh. My old friends called less. Some of them had been hers first, and I didn't hold it against them. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. I ran into one of them, Kyle, at a coffee shop near 4th and Pine. He looked awkward, holding a to-go cup like it might shield him from guilt. Hey man, how are you holding up? I just smiled. Better than I should be. He nodded, and for a moment I could see it, that flicker of disbelief. That maybe, just maybe, I had won somehow. But that's not what it was. I didn't win. She didn't lose. There's no scoreboard in betrayal. Only the wreckage. And who's willing to clean it up? Rachel reached out once more. About a month after our last talk. Left a voicemail. Her voice cracked, and this time there were no accusations, no rationalizations. Just her asking if I remembered the trip we took to Savannah. How we got rained out and ended up playing cards in a motel lobby with a retired couple from Michigan. She said she missed the way I looked at her that night. Like she was the only person I'd ever see. I deleted the message without replaying it. Because the version of me who looked at her that way. He's gone. And I miss him too sometimes. I still think about the night I found out. The dinner reservation. The red dress. The look on her face when I said, I filed. I wonder if she replays it too. Maybe she rewrites it in her head, changes the ending, gives herself a softer version where I forgive her. But that's not how this ends. Because the truth is, when someone hurts you on purpose, not by accident, not in weakness, but with intention, that's not love. That's control. And control only works if you stay in the cage. I didn't. I built a new life, quietly. It's not glamorous. I still double-check locks twice before bed. Still wake up at 3 a.m. some nights, heart racing, expecting some kind of phone call or knock or apology that never comes. But mostly I'm okay. I read more. I cook for one. I started writing again, just little things. I even started dating, though it's hard. Trust feels like a locked door I forgot the key to. But I'm not bitter. I'm just rebuilding. And here's the strangest part, I'm grateful. Because her betrayal taught me something no vow ever could. Love isn't proven in sacrifice. It's proven in restraint. In what you don't do when you're angry. In what you choose not to destroy. She crossed a line I never would have. And now she has to live on the other side of it. As for me, I walk freely.